So welcome to
our channel. Again, that's good news as well.
Let's hold it until the rest of the crew are on. Hey Rita! Hi! Hey Martin! Woo-hoo! This is the moment to big up all our people as they
There are
join.
people who come on time.
All the early comers get serious shout outs.
They're
Prime
catching
time.
warm.
Hey Pat! Oh, Kenyan violinist! Hi! I think she was the first to log in the last time. Hey Pat!
They need a gift hamper for some of these people.
I know some of for these participants who keep coming.
Receive it in social
In fact,
distancing.
we shall keep. I know, we'll start putting hampers for those guys. You win an award, we'll be like Oprah.
You
win
get an award. An Oprah moment.
Oh yeah, we really need to embrace one of those.
Yes.
So as we're waiting for people to come in, we're having a bit of a technical challenge with Facebook, but as that continues, it's time to sanitize.
Hope you have your sanitizers, guys, because it's gonna get.
This discussion is going to, we're sanitizing the conversation.
True.
So I think we're just going to move on with the discussion, and then hopefully our Facebook team will join us soon. So Sue, tell us what it's been like since our last discussion, and actually how frequently are we going to be doing this?
Well, you put me on the spot
Oh gosh. Okay.
there. Put me on the spot. We'll be having them.
Frequently. So
We'll tell you in what intervals, but currently we know we will be having more and more of these conversations.
Yeah. So actually we've settled on having them every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks we should be able to be having more of these interactions, which allows us to answer the questions a lot faster. So just to recap.
First of all, what is your name?
Oh yes. Hi.
My
name is Niai. I'm called.
You are.
So I am Melissa Yumbia, and I am the lead stylist for Urban Live Events.
Yes, and my name is Susan Ungutu, the events coordinator of Urban Live Events.
So for those who are just tuning in, welcome to our live feed for Urban Live Events. And so we have lots of interesting things packed for you today.
Exactly.
So let's start with a recap from what's been happening between now and the last time we had our live session.
First of all, we are welcoming you to our channel.
Oh, that's not the right way. In fact, let me tell you the journey that came. We started off, if you've watched our last feed, and if you haven't, we're going to pin our YouTube channel here for you to subscribe and watch it.
Yes.
But we were really in denial. In fact, I am now in the acceptance phase that we had denied that we were a channel. We officially have a YouTube channel. Woo! So now we must introduce it in the right way. Yeah. Hi guys! Welcome to our channel! So we just had to. So just to recap what we discussed last time, we're discussing how to plan your wedding in the era of COVID-19, and we discussed the scenarios pre and after Miss Rona had checked in. We gave a couple of solutions on what that looks like, and so
then actually a number of things have arisen. Yeah, and I think we'll address them as we go along.
So today's discussion is basically as a continuation to it of the series of like planning your wedding in this era of COVID. And so today we want to delve into what we specialize in, which is design and decor. And so essentially, if you're still wondering what the difference between a planner and a decorator is, then you need to really go to our YouTube channel, or it will be posted after this if it's not appearing right now. And basically that demystified or was able to differentiate what the two are. And so we specifically deal with anything that is the look and feel for your event. And so that is everywhere from floral to lighting to tentage to tables to reception. So basically look and feel in terms of experience for your guests. So we'll delve into that.
Just quickly, you can say the planner is your best friend, and us, we are the love gurus.
Yes. We're also the planner's best friend.
Yes.
So today's topic is actually how to plan your decor in this era of COVID. Just make sure that as we come out of it, you're all planned, all set to just get the things rolling.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and the first thing I think that we need to consider as a bride or groom coming up would be a color scheme.
Yes. So thinking about it, we've all attended weddings, and there are some you are like, hey, what were these guys thinking? And then there are others you go like, oh, really? Okay. So ideally, this is the most crucial stage because being that we can say a wedding is a production, it's an adventure you're taking your guests through, and that means the color theme is something that will stick with them, or they'll be like, no, that one was not a good one. So where do you go if you want to find color schemes? You know.
So the best bet for you would be Pinterest. So Pinterest, then you're able to create your board, start putting in, and so a lot of brides have come and asked us, so now how do I even settle on a color? Especially Pinterest. So two things Pinterest will do. It can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Because one, it can make you spiral and spiral and spiral and spiral. So analysis paralysis can check in very quickly. So ideally what you do is, if you have like a bunch of colors that you have in mind, you go to Pinterest and search. And actually you can put blue, luminous green and yellow wedding. It'll give you all the options.
Specific by the way, like, mustard. Yeah, so don't worry, it will combine colors for you, it will bring things together for you, and then you'll be able to, start selecting. And then the good thing, it also pairs themes as well. So the moment you search a specific color theme, it will also bring styles on what sort of style you're going for the wedding. So it can be minimalist, it can be flamboyant and elaborate, elegant. It will even give you suggestions. And it's actually a good time to even mention we have a Pinterest account.
Yes.
So if you are an upcoming bride, or if you know one, you should go out and check. Just type out Urban Live and it will bring you the things we've put together to just assist couples who are coming up, who are planning their weddings.
Yeah. So once you have your color scheme down and locked, and you've gone through analysis paralysis, and you're like, enough, this is the color. So the next thing would then be to pick a date.
Exactly. So from where we start from, we have brides who already picked dates and COVID happened. We have some who are actually in the process of, picking their dates. So what are things to look out for? Because at this point, we have venues that have been booked. We have venues who have bookings flowing throughout the year, whether COVID is there or not. So that means one thing to look out for is, are you open to things like weekday weddings? I mean, at this point, that seems to be like the new thing to go about.
Yeah, and actually we covered that in our last series. So we'll even as we post this video up, we're still going to put our previous link. Actually, if you go to our website, www.urbanlive.co.ke, after this, all our videos will also be posted there, just for ease of finding where our channel is. And in this part, what we discussed was basically a lot of venues have had to give back money because weddings had to be cancelled. We're urging you, just like last time, postpone, don't cancel. And so one of the things that we said, even as a recap, was if you're going to postpone it, then you run the risk of having to have a weekday wedding. And so you're just going to have to be open to that if you still feel that you want to push through with your wedding this year.
Because changing dates cannot be an easy thing. I mean, you had planned, you had set plans, and you had things you had put around. So it won't be easy, but I think it's proper. Because initially we had addressed find a planner, and if you don't have a planner, engage service providers. So in this case, it's more of creating that conversation and that rapport. What do you think? This is the date so continue the conversation. Don't just keep silent.
Actually, and it's true. And one of the interesting things that I know has thrown a curveball this week was on the 18th. There was a directive that was issued that once again Sharia House has been closed.
Exactly.
And so now, what happened? Let me just tell you, in true Kenyan fashion, Kenyans were told, you can come.
Kenyans.
And in droves, they all came out. And Sharia House was like, hey,
social distancing.
Hey, there's no distancing here.
Let us wear masks. So they're sanitizing us.
Exactly. So they basically had to shut everything down and just be like, we will come back to you with a date when we have put all health regulations in place for you to be able to do it safely. Again, remember, what we're trying to do here is to flatten the curve. So let's be patient. Unfortunately, it does push things a little bit further back in terms of the planning board, but remember, these conversations we're having here are supposed to help you. It doesn't matter when that is. If you've planned everything in advance, then it's just plug and play. Again, one of the things I found so important, and actually let me just even go to one question that had been asked already. So June Gashui had asked us, she was like, why government of Kenya have closed Sheria House? What are we going to do? And the truth of the matter is exactly this. We plan for us to be able, so that when that opens up, if you're going to register, what are you going to give as a date if you've not thought through all these options? What are you going to say is your venue if you've not tried to engage and just gone through some of these things? So it is important to plan. Otherwise, if we just sit and you're like, it's a problem. You're not going to be able to move. So putting those deadlines will also help you plan better, and you're working towards, if it's moving, then at least you're just moving things, but you're organized.
So that's what we're actually addressing today, that you can still plan the nitty-gritty, the parts that don't really have to move as much. And then now, when the government starts cooperating and all the other entities that we need permissions from, then you are set.
Just moves, but then you'll be ahead of the curve. Basically.
You'll be that chick or that guy
who's so organized. The way we are trying to get you organized. So I think once you've sorted out the date, or at least have a tentative date, and again we said if you're seeing like the next part being numbers, right? So again, guided by how many people you want to have at your wedding. If you're feeling like me, 15 people, that is just my siblings, and you're seeing that this is not going to happen. Remember, when you say 15 people, even that pastor, if he decides to come with 3 assistants, it is part of that 15. So you really have to work your numbers really well to make sure that if you're going through the 15 packs wedding, just that head count is so important in terms of
you don't know who to bring in and who not to bring in. So I think this is a very good time to sit down and start writing the list, guys. I mean, 15 is also including the bride and the groom. Don't forget. So that means bridegroom, the venue person. Who else is important? Maybe you want
the pastor.
The pastor.
This can't happen
we should
without
have started with the pastor. So the pastor, and then the evangelist
and comes with 2 assistants. He didn't come alone. So those guys have to be counted into this number.
Guys, we are down. We are, how many people are? Yani, we've not even counted your mom, your dad, and your siblings. Lucky are you if you're the only kid at home. But then we have people we grew up with, so there are people we don't. And we think that this is a good time to start thinking through those scenarios, because the truth of the matter is, even after the curve has flattened, the effects of COVID will be with us, and where's the guarantee that we might have we'll have 800 packs or 1,000 packs if big events like the super sports, whatnot, and the La Ligas and what football nisaidieni hapo. So if they've been put at a halt, it's a scenario to think about.
And I think that a good thing is that we'd also covered this in the previous discussion when we were saying what are your options if you're postponing, if you're feeling that the numbers are too few for you, it just doesn't work, then it's a good thing to also look back and please, subscribe and watch our previous videos so that you're able to see what remedies that we've given. We're seeing more people joining in. Hello, hi Lucy, hi Kimari, hi Wagare, hi Fritz, Amani, hey, Leon, George, Karibuni.
And from my end, I have Mimi Nyawe and Victor Gishohi. Hi to you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Keep the conversation going. I think you can also engage us. If you are a bride before, what do you think if reverse roles and then now you, Melissa, what will you have done?
Let me tell you. I would do exactly what we're doing now. That's the truth. I'd be tuning into this discussion to get tips.
You see?
Yeah. I'm a smart girl. I try. So back to numbers. So if you do choose to have the 15 packs wedding, those are some of the things too you need to know. In terms of 15 includes you, your husband to be, your pastor and whoever he chooses to bring. So anybody, any groundsman who's there. So just know that 15 counts all of you who are there.
Exactly.
So if you choose to have a larger number, then we're now discussing the postponing direction and waiting. This is assuming you'd gotten your certificate beforehand. If you had not gotten your certificate, we're going to come back and have a discussion about some of the things that are happening that can still allow you to have some sort of not formalization, but blessing. So we'll cover that towards the end of the discussion in terms of what are some of the things you can opt for if you do still decide to do 15 people.
Exactly.
And
but even if you don't have your certificate, I think these are fundamental things to think about. Being that COVID is still, the effects will be with us within 2020, and if you're planning on exchanging your vows within this year, then these are important facts to note down and think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for those who are just joining us, to recap what we've just been talking about is we started off by sanitizing, then we gave a brief. This is an advertisement. T-shirts are so cool. We just have to show you,
guys, and
what
we
we're
have
looking
skirts.
like. Yeah, and our skirts are matching, so welcome. That was a nice short commercial break. Now you're all caught up. And so we move on to the next thing is venue. So venues.
There's a lot of things to talk about in matters venue.
Oh yeah.
Kwanza, let's start with where is the venue?
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of things to factor in terms of your venue. One, there's who's coming once you've identified the numbers. So if you're choosing to have a larger wedding, that's a postponed wedding, then that means that you need to think about where your people coming from. What's the proximity? What's the terrain? What's if most of them will also be using public transport, what's the proximity to the highway or the road? Then what season is it as well?
Yes, is it a rainy season? Is it a windy one? Is it sunny?
So it's important.
Is it a muddy one?
And
so
for this particular bit, I would always say, always plan your wedding with the worst case scenario in terms of plan for the worst, even regards to, and we'll come to that in the next discussion, but always plan for bad weather. And then it's always a pleasant and great surprise as we are praying for the day to just be beautiful. Okay? So plan for the worst, hope for the best, but just plan for the worst, right? Because events, Murphy's Law, my friends. Murphy's Law.
Then I think another thing is, are you going to have an indoor and outdoor ceremony? So the important thing about having gone through Pinterest or Google, searching through the color theme, the type of style you want for your big day, how many people, it informs whether it's indoors or outdoors.
True.
So,
and even the time.
Yes, and even the time, exactly. Because if you are if you're having it indoors, it means you must look for, it already narrows down the type of venues you will be using. There are some that can't take 1,000 packs. There are some that takes a limit of 50, depending on what your choice is. So those are things to consider. Venue really informs where you're having it, and if it is outdoors, what is the season? How is the weather looking for that specific month and day? So those are things we here help you
to put together. It's
exactly
true. Yeah. So as we continue, we're seeing more and more people joining in. I can see Victor, I can see Leon have a question. We'll cover that later. We can see Kwele Ken, hello. And so we're basically, just to bring you up to date, we're discussing what it looks like to plan your wedding decor specifically this time around, efficiently and effectively during this time of COVID-19.
Exactly.
To make sure that when you're coming out of this hard corner, you are ahead of the game, right?
Yes.
And so I think one of the things that was so key in terms of venue was also just, important pointers, like things like, will it be able to fit the number of guests that you're having? If it's 15, you don't have to stress a lot. In terms of parking, how many cars are you anticipating? Does it have ample parking and spillover parking? Security, does it have security? But also, how much more do you need to supplement to make sure that it's a secure place?
And then depending on what you're bringing in. So if you're engaged to service providers and perhaps tents are coming in, is your sound guy bringing stuff into ground the day before or on the day of? The catering team, are they cooking on site or off site? Some of these things inform whether you will bring in security or not. So those are important details to consider even when making plans for the big day.
Water supply. Guys, just glaze through this particular part. Water is life.
So right now, everywhere when you walk around the streets, there are drums.
Oh yes,
Osha
true.
mikono.
Yeah, water
Osha
supply is so
mikono, osha
important.
mikono.
Because remember, forget how we used to wash hands at the food station. I anticipate that even when all these things kind of settle down, this whole cleanliness aspect is not going to go away from us. We're still going to have washing stations.
Yes.
We'll start thinking about having like some medics or some sort of ambulances inducted as a serious point of concern during our weddings, because that's something that if you think of, if you got married, I know I didn't have an ambulance at my wedding, but I really do need to think about it now.
Exactly.
It's something very key to have.
Maybe
and
mask
it needs
distributors.
Yeah, mask distributions.
From Asha.
Of course, measuring
of
of temperature. You've seen they're doing it at supermarkets, like from...
measure your temperature.
I don't think that device is certified. Toilets are another key thing, and if you may overlook this when you're looking for your venue, but then when later on it does come into a budgetary, you have to factor it in somewhere in your budget.
Or you'll end up having rows and rows of people, especially in scenarios. You remember last time, for those who watched the last live session, we talked about a wedding where we had the couple had budgeted for around 400 people. Then 700 people came, guys. This is Kenya. So
again, plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Exactly.
That's our mantra for today, actually.
So get those portable loos in there.
Same power is another thing. I've been to weddings, and I know this has happened even to people very close to me, where the power just went out. And they said the generator backs up, but the generator didn't back up. So what's your backup?
Exactly.
In terms of, and we all know how Kenya Power is. When you need them the most,
they are playing. What was that joke
like,
that has been going around? They are not trained. There's something that was being said.
Yeah, but I mean that happens. Same thing for internet, because that's also going to happen. Even after all this has been lifted, we're still going to have a lot of live sessions like this during your wedding for people who are in the diaspora who can't make it in time.
Exactly.
So ensuring that you have backup on data bundles and fiber. Somebody made a joke this morning. I said like Weetabix has more fiber than Zuku. Anyway, we're hoping today Zuku you will be dependable. We're hoping, don't cut us today. We're hoping today you'll prove us wrong.
You can sponsor us. Have we reached out for you?
Yes. Permits are another serious thing. And I know that even going forward, this is going to be taken with a lot more seriousness.
Yes.
Considering that you always have to report to your nearest police station. Then there's also NEMA permits, trying to find out what the regulations, and then your venue, if it's around a residential area, you do not want the neighbors, you don't want to be involved in the neighbors' domains on that day. So sticking to time restrictions as that day, because there's some venues that you need to wind up everything by 6 p.m. So if you're still there, do at 6:30. All of you will be, Mariam was heading to the nearest police station. So to avoid such issues. Then another thing is always consider your service providers when you're choosing your venue, and that's an important part to discuss now before you're trying to rush and sign a contract with them. Or some of the things we've encountered and this is, please allow us to just have a session where we just offload and just
open our hearts
to see some of the challenges we have. But sometimes what happens is you find a couple went and they were told that I booked Saturday, but there's a Friday wedding. And this Friday wedding came with like all hands on deck. Tentage is for, let's say, 800 packs. Tents are like sound, everything. So basically,
a live band.
Oh yeah, and so all those things put together, the wedding probably ended at midnight. Maybe it's a venue that allows night weddings. So then we're allowed, and your wedding is starting at 11 o'clock. That essentially means that you have less than 12 hours to turn around a spot. To be able to have your guests come in and translate all these things we've discussed and thought through for months and months. So you really need to ensure that, especially depending on the type of tent, the number of people you're having, quick turnaround. So you really need to ensure that if you have a wedding, if you know that you're having a big wedding and there's an event the day before, you're going to have to rethink it before you sign all of these things. Talk to your service providers and confirm that it is possible to turn it around. Otherwise, you're better off just moving it, because remember, your mental state is so important beyond your wedding day. So just try and alleviate the amount of stress you have on the day.
Situations where you find that vitu kwa ground different.
Actually, and Kimari has an interesting point where he's saying, or considering that the venue might be far from people in these curfew times. So if you you're very right. You're very true, Kimari. So those are a lot of things to consider when you're factoring in, and then always make sure that the last thing you're doing in terms of your vendors, venue, get a contract, read through the terms and conditions very, very well. Understand them so that you don't end up in a situation where you had overlooked something and it costs you on your big day. And communicate all those terms and conditions to your service provider so that everybody's in the loop of what needs to happen to make this day a success.
I think the other thing is, aside from the turnaround to setting up an event, is a turnaround of setting down an event. We've had situations or scenarios where event grounds or venues do not allow you to stay in an event past 6 p.m. or past midnight. So that means we are working 48 hours.
It's true.
And remember, if you don't have a planner, we most probably end up picking up the slack of what a planner would have done. So that means we don't abandon you on your day on the event. Then after the event, it is us who pick up again, setting down the tents, the sound, the whatnot.
And I think even as you're planning, and a lot of us, and I know even I am a culprit of this, where we are planning because yes, I have done my wedding. For you brides upcoming brides, I don't know, but we always tend to focus so much on the D-Day until if you're cutting cake as the last order of business at 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. then that's it for you. You're like, hey, now it's the after party or whatever it is that's going on. But please do remember to factor in your service providers and your guests. So in the event that you end up having, say, a destination wedding and you're doing it in a hotel, things like check out what your guests did in between there ends up being, because you're the last person to check out. So that could end up being your bill if anything happens. If the vendor stays on beyond a certain time because we didn't discuss this, it was not a realistic time to set it down, it will end up costing you in one way. So it's important to factor those things in.
And I think these are also important things to note down when also choosing a service provider, because we have others who don't think through some of these things. So these are good questions to also ask. What is your setup plan? What is your set down plan? In case this happens, what do we do? So communication, right?
Yeah, it's true. Open channels of communication.
Yeah.
So, and all these things that we've discussed then lead to the elephant that's always in the room, which is budget. And everybody's always like, so some of the frequently FAQs, frequently asked questions are, so my wedding is luminous green, blue, and purple. Humor me. And I got married to Cowland. Allow me to prosper. Okay.
Cows, you see how
it's even in our logo. Anyway, so I come and tell you my color scheme, whatever it is. Okay. And then I say, and it's 300 people. Give me a quote. Let me tell you what happens in that instance. It is crickets, because we need more information. Okay.
Exactly.
So essentially, what a budget looks like from us or a decorator would be, it's itemized, and so we'd have to walk through the steps to design this. And essentially, what we always say, it's a journey. Yes. What journey do you want to walk with your guests to feel and explore during your big day?
Yes.
And so that's essentially what now a design and decor specialist will do. Not all companies that provide decor do design.
Yes.
So if you find a design and decor company, then there's that extra added advantage to it.
Yes.
And there's a lot of debates around this where they're saying this should actually be built as a separate service because it's work here. But
it is. I mean, walking through with someone who just comes and asks you for a quote for 300 bucks, then you go through the different items. And then the reason why we are taking you through these steps from parks, the date, the venue, is because these are the questions when you come as an engaged couple, we will ask you. Any event design styling company will ask you these questions on set. And so it saves you time and resources of having constant meetings, of going back and forth once you have these things in order.
Yeah. So essentially, what will my budget, if I was to be asked, so what would that budget look like? What is all this hullabaloo about all these things you need to put in and things you need to think about.
Yes.
So what that looks like for us is we start off with, we'll start mapping it out with you, okay? And this is for us, we look at it as a process map. So how is this going to work tied into the adventure aspect of it? So what's the adventure this couple is taking us on so that we are able, and actually an adventure series is coming up, so adventure that the couple will take their guests through. And so it starts off with, we'll discuss typically, start off with church. Is it indoor, is it outdoor? If it's church, then church have regulations. It needs to be things that can be turned around fast.
Exactly.
Because some of them have 2 to 3 weddings in a day.
Yeah.
Then if it's outdoor, then it's garden too. Garden and garden reception and garden church. Yes. So again, there's a lot of aspects. So if it's church, then you're talking about existing structures. You don't have to worry about possibly rain unless the structure has a problem. But we're talking about, typically it would be pews or existing plastic chairs that need to be dressed and other aesthetics that bring out the theme. For an outdoor, then that would mean tentage, possibly covering
the chairs as well.
Basically everything. It's because it's open space, then there's a lot more furniture involved, which means then your court then begins to look a little bit
more
beefed up. So, and then the next step would then be your bouquets. So are you, how many bridesmaids, how many maybe flower girls will you have? Are the grooms wearing boutonnieres? Boutonnieres is a question that all grooms I have mentioned this to, actually, in the exception of maybe 1 or 2. They're like, what is a buho? What? Boutonniere is that flower. I'm more used to wear, but yes, that is a boutonniere. So you're welcome. That is another lesson we've learned today. So boutonnieres. Then you move on to car decor. Bridal car decor is obviously a bit more pricier than the other cars that are being decorated.
Then the bouquets as well.
Yeah, bouquets. Then the next step will be the car decor.
It would actually be cocktail. So
we talked about car decor, yes. So cocktail.
Exactly.
So are you having a cocktail to bridge the gap between your church and your reception? So my personal opinion, and this is not of the industry, but my personal opinion is, if you're having an 11 o'clock wedding and you're planning to serve lunch at 1 o'clock, your best, sometimes it beats the purpose to have that cocktail, because what tends to happen is there are people who always bypass the system of the cocktail and go directly into the reception, especially the older folk. So then you have a situation where, especially if you come in and you've been trying to save on budget and you say, oh, can we move chairs from church to reception? We always
have
advise,
a cocktail, guys.
Yeah, so we always advise, please just try and at least have half and half at the very least, so that you can have half in the reception. So if people go, it's not an empty space. There's spaces to sit when we can fill in, but we always encourage, please just have 2 sets of chairs. That always works as your spillover space.
Because it will be so...
It tends to be messy.
For the word.
It tends to be messy. Because most times you'll find that between the church and where you have the reception, it's always the go-between. So you'll always be trying to shop, and there's no cute way of carrying chairs, I promise you. We've tried it. There's no cute way. There'll always be a guy sweating carrying bulk chairs coming across trying to, and then there's the arranging them before it's ready for people. So I would highly advise, if you can try and raise a budget, because you're such a good bride and groom, you're on this trying to plan in advance to try and save up for it, please, we really strongly advise for that.
Exactly. What I think something else that you were to mention about cocktail was that sometimes
that transition is not
the transition, if you're doing if the ceremony is starting at 11 and the reception is at 1 and you want a cocktail, I think it would be before the ceremony, as opposed to it being in between the reception and the ceremony.
And that actually helps to cover the people who might be traveling from different places, who might have woken up really early, didn't have a chance to have lunch. Better use of your money. Again, my opinion. Better use of your money. Then service ends at 12 o'clock. Pictures to 12:30, 12:30 to 1, or 12 o'clock to 1. They'll be wasted in one area. Either the food will be left over, or the cocktail might not be consumed as much.
And I think there's one wedding that we had that I think I had a guest. I don't know, I can't remember which exactly. But you'd hear most of them say that if the cocktail is in between ceremony and reception, I mean, I'm already full. If I take the bitings and take the drinks, you're already full and you don't get to experience the meal that the couple has prepared for you for that day. So I think the pre
would work, yes.
better.
Or if you're having an afternoon to evening wedding, then you'll find that maybe you could have again another pre, because you might be serving dinner at 7 p.m. So pre again would work so well, because then you're able to have people, at least in church, guys are not having rumbling stomachs in the process. Or in between, if your church is 3 to 4 maybe, and then 4 and you're serving dinner at 7, that's better use of your time. And then it also buys you some time to go take pictures and then come back and join people for their meal.
And I think also in this area is where now you bring in the other elements that you bring in for your wedding. Question is, in this cocktail area, what do you want your guests to experience aside from the meals and the conversation? We've had couples who've come up with games for this area. We recently had a bride who did not want to have the normal speeches during the reception. So this is a good time to have a photo booth and also have people give their speech on a specific backdrop. Just give your speech there, and then when you get to the reception, just eat your food.
And you know what that does? It forces also those people who transition between who just leapfrog the process and move to the reception. They're forced to stay because they're in the program, in the cocktail. And a lot of times, actually, the reason why people tend to sometimes, skip the cocktail process is because it also, I mean, you want to go and sit down and settle into your space and get a good spot, but sometimes there isn't enough to engage people long enough to have them there. After they've eaten, you'll, wolf down your food, depending on how hungry you are, really quickly, and then what? And then what happens, right? So that's basically it. So now going into the reception, and again, we always encourage this is the stock aspect, or in terms of all those things. But in each of those sections, church, cocktail, we always want to say, what's the special thing you're doing in each of those sections? And if I was to ask you, Sue, so if you're a bride, Kwanza, if you were to you're a Rona bride. So if you were to decide where to spend your money with now the information that you have being an event coordinator, where would you put all your money bags, like or invest all your money in terms of the day?
I think I would put it in the reception. However, now being that depending on how the year evolves, we might have receptions or not. So that would mean the previous idea we had, where you can send packages to your guests and then you eat while I watch you, because
there's nothing like saving it for tomorrow.
I want to know you ate my food, guys.
So again, as we're having this discussion, it's a lot of information, a lot. So we're trying to also kind of open it up and unpack it in smaller packages that are more palatable or consumable. Please ask your questions, give us comments, even encourage us. Don't be too serious. We're really trying to make a conversation that's really really heavy to be consumable and not feeling like it's overwhelming. So please just come in there, throw in a greeting, we can see a former bride. Hey Steph, how are you? Hey Cheru.
I think when people talk about the weddings, you'll hear everyone say, I wouldn't want to plan my wedding. I think the first advice we normally give our clients when they come in is, it's never too early to start. And when you start early, it gives you a very good period of time for you to actually, just get into the game, understand what you want, get your personality in order, and you can even personalize your wedding. I mean, there are very many things you can do.
It's true. But we always say, please give your wedding a twist. And the best part about having a design specialist as your decorator as well is you're able to do, Gani, you bring the stock idea, then we just give it a serious spin together, and we just make it your own type of thing, So always make sure that whatever, and please go to those weddings, go to those functions, take pictures, Instagram, Facebook, do it. But always remember, create your own adventure. It doesn't have to be like the other, and that's what we're challenging you. With this time, take the time to think outside the
The
box. You know, you could be
Yes.
the one we're talking about. Oh, interesting fact.
Mhm.
So in line with postpone, don't cancel,
Yeah.
I saw something so cute today, but it was in one of the international feeds,
Mhm.
and it was like people have started sending out postponement cards, and they're getting so creative. It was one of those, oh snap, and one of those Miss Rona, just whatever, and we just can't see not having you at our wedding a
Yes.
possibility.
Especially
So we are
if you had
postponing
sent
this. Yeah.
invites before, you know.
If you had save the dates,
Exactly.
that's such a cute way of just doing it, you know. And then you buy yourself some more time to
To
put in the
plan.
storehouse for your budget and do more. Or if you're doing a 15 packs wedding, the beauty of it is you don't have to entertain people past 6 o'clock. You're like, come in, I will feed you, a quick cocktail, but you can make it as lush, luxurious,
and as creative as possible.
And
personalized.
And please don't stop yourself from dreaming. I'm telling you, the budget change from 1,000 packs or 800 packs to 15 people, you can do exceedingly abundantly above.
Rolling over. Spilling over.
So keep those questions coming, keep your comments coming. We are seeing you waving. Oh, we have more people joining us. Hey Mama Mgeni. How are you?
I can also see Alex Mwai saying loving the decor at the back.
Oh,
but those wine glasses kubwa si ukiwekewa kwa reception
That is I think Alex, I hope you were here when we were discussing security. We take security very seriously at weddings.
Yes.
Oh, trust me, we even have our own team. As part, we always ensure, because, that's another thing I feel like we need to cover.
Yes.
Oh, guys, as part of our, Fungua Roho session, we have had to chase down our customers' guests as they've packed things that they should not be. So I think that's also another thing too. So that's a reason why working with your service providers on securities are really, really important.
I think
point.
Actually not thinking about it.
we want to give you stories.
The funny bit is we've had scenarios of guests carrying, some of the things placed on the table.
Oh yeah, they are huge items. I'm like, where are you going? What's happening?
What's happening?
What's
happening, bro?
So, again, when you're looking at that guest list, please try and see who those guys are. Try and save yourself some drama too. The things that you think of are typically in a reception, and these are stock items. Remember, we sit down and now we add that special touch to it. Is there's a time I always say, and this is my own description of what events decor or quotations are. If you come and just give me basic information and ask me to give you a quote off the top of my head, not possible. Reason being, events are like I say, like build your own burger. So if you tell me a chair, I will ask you which chair, because there's like over 3,000 types of chairs and they're still being made. So, and each chair has its different pricing. For example, this Chavari seats we're sitting on, there are how many colors? There's black, there's gold, there's clear, there's
there's white,
and there's white. So those are 5 types. Each of them have different prices.
If we talk about foldable, we have brown ones, we have white
ones,
we have black, clear ones.
Yeah.
I mean, so the list is very broad.
And the prices for each of them are different. If you talk about charger plates, there's the old plasticky looking ones, there's the new clear big. Ooh, actually, is this an advertisement opportunity? We're actually sitting at a set table, we're looking for opportunity. See this? This is ideally a gold bead charger plate.
Guys,
slightly more pricier than it would be.
This is a glass, guys.
And of course, simple accessories like napkins and things like that add on to that. The glasses that Moy is talking about. Here we actually have a proper arrangement of glasses, and we'll take pictures again and post them up on our feed. We have water glass, white wine glass, and proper arrangement in terms of how they're supposed to look, in terms of table etiquette. Same thing for cutlery.
Yeah, if we talk about table placement, how elaborate do you want it? Do you just want a napkin
on its own?
Do you want a napkin
and
with a charger plate?
Yeah.
Do you want a napkin, charger plate, and cutlery?
Yeah.
Guys, we have gold spoons.
And there's many ways we can play around with them.
Yeah.
And in terms of accessories as well, we've seen people who have come up with creative ways of even giveaways in terms of their coasters that can be given away. So think about things that can be functional in terms of your table decor that also add, so that special touch and zest, that those ones they can to distract them. They can carry those home and leave the real things to stay at the venue.
So I mean, there's quite a bit you can do.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let me address this. I've seen Kimari saying, watu wa IG live hawajaona hizo charger plate. Okay, this is specifically, sorry Facebook guys, but this is specifically for IG live. Can you see it now?
We want it to focus.
This is a gold bead charger plate. This particular one has rose gold beads, and that is a napkin. This is a blush napkin. And we're playing around with colors. Let me tell you, us guys have been starved of opportunities too. So really, we're looking forward to styling your weddings. This is an emerald green one. Yes. So we have many options in terms of what you can do. I mean, I wish we could lift the table cover to show you, but we shall do that later for you in the captions later in terms of pictures. Exactly. So some of the other things that typically would be in a reception would be the type of tent. Yes. That also varies in terms of price. If you go for an A-frame tent, for example, is it clear? Is it solid? Again, rule of thumb: if you do opt for an A-frame tent, if your wedding is between 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. and 5 p.m., please do not opt for a clear A-frame tent. Yeah. You are basically setting up your people to sit in an oven. Greenhouse. Or a greenhouse. So please opt for, if it's a day function, please opt for a solid tent. If it's a night function, that's starting, if you're expecting your guests to come in from about 4 o'clock, going into the night, they can survive because then we can open up the vents. And then as the night progresses, then we can close them up, bring in heaters and things like that. So that's a pro tip. Also,
then the other types of tents are pergolas. Oh yeah. And remember, previously, for those who are joining us, we had spoken about venue and the day of the event and the season of this wedding that you're planning. And so certain types of tents work for certain seasons, and some do not work. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll have those situations of your guests are seated, it's raining, and then it just falls on them. Yeah. So. Or you have people in between the ceremony just pushing
pushing water out of the canvas. So it's really important to just work with and allow us as the decorators to also guide you as to what to do. Because if we come and tell you, please don't opt for a canopy, that time usually is rainy. Let's go for something safe. Opt for that. But remember, we agreed. We're planning for worst case, hoping for the best. Yes. Okay. Some of the other things you can go with is tables. There's different table layouts. There's round tables, rectangular tables, square tables,
and you can
half moon tables, S tables. There are like so many. Again,
tables.
Prices vary based on what you choose. High table decor also varies. Backdrops vary. Lighting varies. The ceiling decor that you put in varies. Your centerpieces, because you see that we worked hard over here to put up a little display.
And centerpieces are also the list is endless.
It's really endless. Again, depending on the type of flowers, what's in season, there's a lot of things to factor in. And remember, all those things are cost. Exactly. There's a cost attached to it. It can be higher, it can be lower.
And since this is build your own burger, which you can say, change the burger to wedding, build your own wedding, it means at this point, if you are just copy-pasting something from the social media and giving it to your designer, it won't work. The best option would be, this is my budget, this is what I like, what can we do?
Yeah. And actually, when we ask that question as designers, what is your budget? Most people are always like, where do man? Just send first, then we'll see, you know. You know.
It's just something
so the truth of the matter is, for our industry, a Chevalier chair gold is the same price across board. So we can't inflate the prices. It's not possible. Yeah. We ask that so that we're able to guide. If you come and tell me, I plan to have a wedding and I'm planning and it's 800 bucks and I have 500,000, then we'll be able to guide you and say, okay, within that range, what you then are able to access is this. What's your most important thing? What's the thing you're willing to splurge on? Then we work around it. Or when we break everything down, you'll be able to see realistically that figure might not work. I think we might need to revise this either upwards or, most times it's upwards. But what we always encourage is, if you plan for the worst and the weather is, because we always keep praying for amazing days and we have prayerful people, parents, people rallying behind us. If your day turns out to be amazing, then you knock off some of these things closer to the date. And it's always an easier conversation to come and tell you, hey, we are slashing off some items, so you've got money. It's better than coming to tell you closer to the date,
we need to add this,
I think we need to add more money. So always plan for the worst.
Yes.
And then hope for the best.
Again, remember, these are conversations to have with your service providers. Find out, and remember, initially we had mentioned that you should also ask for recommendations. If Urban Life has maybe worked with, let's say, La Vida Events or Sisimsha, then these are people who can tell you, oh, we know so and so can do this, we know so and so can do this. Then it also helps you save on time, save on, headaches. We've had situations where service providers have been a no-show. So it's important to have this also on your fingertips to assist you to know what to do. I think also another tip we can give is that you as a couple need to have a budget, an Excel sheet where you have all these things with decor included as part of your main budget. So we've had situations where you ask a couple, what is your budget? And they'll say our budget is 1 million. And we recommend things within the space of 1 million. Then later on they're like, but no, this and this this wasn't what we meant. What we meant was for decor is this amount. So it's important to know that decor is a budget on its own. And I think we need to also break the myth that says decor is not expensive.
Oh, decor is expensive, guys. That's the truth. In fact, in your whole wedding budget, the two things that will be highly priced items, food, decor. That's just it. And if you think about it, the more numbers you have, the more that budget is going to go up. That's just the truth. Because when you talk about an extra person, and we've had this challenge with couples trying to explain it to their parents, where they say, they're like, I have 300 packs, and then the parents are like, no, 1,000. And and like, nipatia your bill, give me that bill, I'll pay it. Most times, it won't work. So, I think a lot more tips we're going to be sharing on our blog post, www.urbanlife.co.ke. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, we're going to post this there. I want to say thank you to Trio Digital, who are the people behind the scenes working out. Matthew and Martin, thank you so much. Alex Moy, thank you for all the advice you've been giving us and pro tips. To our friends, family, siblings, significant others, thank you.
We are grateful.
For our raving fans and clients who've been tuning in, and our fellow suppliers, thank you so much for your show of support. So we'll take one last question before we're timed out. I think we just have another 5 minutes to go. Oh, thank you, Steph. She's saying it's as a bride of ours, a former bride from last year, but one. She's saying, I really enjoyed working with you guys. I wish I could get married again. It was beautiful. Oh, thank you. We love you too, Steph. So we have a question from...
Oh, we can do your anniversary.
Oh yes, we can do your anniversary, baby showers. We're also planning drive-through baby showers.
We are
praying for many things on the way. So question from McKenna is how to identify and decide on who's the best place to be a partner. For instance, you provide decor and they do planning. I see many big events companies leaning towards this now. A lot of that is basically through building relationships, credibility, and it all starts with taking on the first event. Once you work together, you're able to tell if you're gelling. If not, then I believe that's adios, my friend. If it is working, then there's a lot more fruitful relationships that come. There's a lot of referrals along, because we always go to our fellow suppliers to ask and recommendations. So please make sure that you're honest and build good relationships. That's it. That's basically what our criteria is. So,
and also integrity is another one.
It's really key. It's really, really key. So, guys, it's almost time. And we have to say goodbye. But before we do, again, we want to give a big shout out to all those people who tuned in. And again, to our very first people who had logged in, that was Rita,
Yes.
Kenyan violinist. Who else have we seen as our first
Receive
people?
your package.
Martin, thank you so much for Jabdini.
Just receive it.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. And again, we look forward
grateful.
to having these conversations with you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye. Subscribe to our channel.
That bell.
See you guys. Have a lovely weekend.